I went into the instructor course, got my instructor license for barbering and all that. And then as I did that, I was going down to the prison system downtown in Seattle and stuff. And I was, like I said, giving back, cutting hair for the juveniles and the young, people that are incarcerated. Yeah, I've coached basketball. I've coached football. My oldest son, he played a little bit of both. So he's 23. So I did a little bit of almost everything, I would say, in a sense, as far as like parenting goes and hands-on.
Wow. How many kids do you have?
I have a total of four, two boys, two girls. My oldest boy, like I said, he's in college right now, going to Georgia State. My oldest daughter, she's 17. My second son, he'll be 12 in August, and my youngest daughter just turned 8.
How well do you know Larry Mabry, or what connected you with Larry initially?
There's a program, and it's a peer counselor CPC. There's a project. It's called the B&B Project, which is a beauty barber and industry project where we are being able to have more resources when it comes to like mental health and stuff like that. So we've took courses and got certified through the health authorities. And I met him through this particular program. Obviously, I'm a barber, so I do haircuts throughout the community. Go from the Boys and Girls Club. We go to different high schools. Also go into the prisons and do haircuts there. What better to kind of use the beauty industry to kind of tap into the community and kind of heal the community or help the community in whatever ways possible. Obviously, we're not clinically. I can't diagnose anybody or anything like that, but there's resources that we have that we can kind of point someone in the right direction.
You recently were given an award, Community Healer, if I remember right.
It was through the Reign of Style, which is ran by Miss Aisha, who was also in this CPC training program and course that we have. And she's been throwing these barber, I wouldn't necessarily say competitions, more like recognition, I would say, more than anything. And this is about her 10th or 11th year. And with this project going on, they I guess added another award, which is the healing award, and there was different categories. Like I said, they were for barbering, they were for hair braiding, it was for nails, the best salon, the best barbershop. It was just a lot of different things, and healing the community was one of them. We had to send a bio in and kind of tell our story, and apparently a lot of people liked my story and kind of like what they heard and kind of voted for me, and that's how I won. I've been doing like a pre-apprentice program for like work readiness, trying to get some of these young adults as they're in high school or prior to, getting to adulthood, trying to, help them along, give them something else that they can kind of focus their energy on, focus their time on, because, with today's world and society and everything, is so much that can kind of get us lost. To be honest, being young and let's just say getting caught in wrong places, wrong time, coming through the prison system, I was able to try to pull myself out of making bad choices early. And I just wanted to, find a way to kind of give back. And when I got the opportunity, a lot of people talk about COVID. Yes, it was very tragic, but that kind of opened my eyes, to be honest, for me to kind of like tap into myself. And I went into the instructor course, got my instructor license for barbering and all that. And then as I did that, I was going down to the prison system downtown in Seattle and stuff. And I was, like I said, giving back, cutting hair for the juveniles and the young, people that are incarcerated. Kind of one thing led to another, and connected with a lot of different other people in the community that was doing similar things or wanted the same type of thing for their particular program. And that's kind of like one thing led to another, and just kind of everything propelled from there.
How did you first become aware that you could be good at or enjoy cutting hair and styling hair?
I did it when I was in high school, and I just did it just to, hang around my friends and stuff. But I didn't really take it serious, to be honest, until I got here to Washington. Actually, when I was playing basketball at BCC, freak accident, blew my knee out, had to have multiple different surgeries. I literally was probably in a cast or some sort of crutches or something for about a year and a half. Um, and I had nothing else to do. So I was like, hey, I like cutting hair. Let me just do that for the guys on the basketball team, maybe a few of my classmates. And then to be honest, I got in some trouble hanging around the wrong people. And then that just kind of was like, okay, what am I going to do from here? And, that was something that I kind of fell back into, like that. It was my love, because obviously I hurt myself basketball. I wasn't the same player that I was. I, did everything to come back, but just wasn't the same. And kind of went through some depression, and, you know, cutting hair was like my next best thing to make me feel good because it made someone else feel good because of, you never know what the haircut can do or the service that you do for someone.
You already had some experience cutting hair, and then you were thinking, okay, what's my future going to be? What skills do I have that can lead to earning an income? And so that was one of the better routes available to you.
And luckily, I had some sort of experience because I was lost. I was young, and the regular 9 to 5 job. I wasn't disciplined enough to come to work on time and get back on time from lunch and stuff like that. Went through some different jobs. Worked at McDonald's. Worked at car washes. Like just did a little bit of everything and cut grass and stuff like that, and just nothing really stuck.
Growing up, I always just got my haircut at the local Great Clips or Supercuts.
Mm-hmm.
But then in recent years, becoming someone who advocates for boys and men, uh, I saw someone say like, "Hey, if you're a man and you have a barbershop nearby, you should try to support that business. Not only because it's, men supporting a business that's usually run by men and most of the
Mm-hmm.
clientele are men, but
Mm-hmm.
also because of the social aspect of interacting with a barber
Absolutely.
and how it can be good for your mental health. So now I do make an effort. I can't say as much as I could, but I make some
Mm-hmm.
effort to get my haircut at a barber.
The barbers were the community healers, the community dentals. They did blood wetting, they did tooth pulling, they did so many different things that people kind of really get into the history of barbering. And over time, a lot of those criteria were stripped away from barbers, and so now we are just qualified to focus on just the hair. But if you go back into the history, barbers were kind of like the liaison of the community when it comes to like connecting. Even if you're not getting hair service, that was where you went to get public information. When newspapers and stuff like that were delivered at the hubs of the community. I mean, you can go get a haircut at a Great Clips or Hair Masters. Nothing against those places, but I would say yes, if you have the opportunity to support a local business, even if it's the first time or even someone like just going in and getting that family greeting and that connection with other customers in there is kind of priceless.
I didn't know that there's a history where barbers were doing more than dealing with people's hair.
1700, 1800s, 1900s, like it just evolved over the years, and that's kind of what the red, white, and the blue stripes were for. The blood was for the bloodletting, obviously. The blue was for the barbering, and the white was for the dentist and like the doctory work. That's where you went for stitches and things like that. Yeah.
Wow, I had no idea.
Actually, barbering was one of the first industries, period. Back in the Egyptians, they didn't want to look the same as the women, right? So that was their way of identifying who's who. And even with the beards, and you see the Viking beards and stuff like that really represent like masculinity and things like that. So, or with the color or the way the hair was either styled in a certain ways represented certain cultures, backgrounds, things like that.
Are the kinds of hairstyles that are popular constantly changing? Where if you're a barber, you are constantly learning new techniques?
Absolutely. There's the tools are always evolving, cut faster, maybe a little bit lighter, or even, for me, oh man, this is going to show how old I am. But so when I first started, it was, the clippers had the cord and, things like that. And now it's cordless clippers and you can just charge them and take them with you. And it's, I tell some of the young barbers now, like it's really changed in the last 20 to 25 years.
Long hair seems to be in for young men nowadays. Am I mistaken there?
Everything does evolve and it just kind of comes back around. Like this is kind of like the long hair era. And if you go back to like the 70s or whatever and just look at pictures, and to be honest, I kind of love it because the kids, they don't want too much cut off. They want the top, like you said, leave it messy, leave it long. They just want to clean the side, get it off their ears, maybe a little bit off the neck, and they're good.
I've heard it said that with trends that catch on in like mainstream American culture, oftentimes they originate with Black Americans and then they become cool and then sometimes they spread. Have you seen examples of that?
Yes, but I wouldn't just say like all culture, to be totally honest. Like each culture has had, I would say, like their time in history where their style or how they done something was cool, and other cultures have definitely mimicked their style. I would say like each culture has a signature hairstyle, which that's what makes it art. That's what makes it, different, and that's what makes it cool because every culture can learn from everyone.
For young men nowadays that might be interested in getting into cutting hair, what would be a good way for them to start?
If you're a young adult and maybe college isn't your thing, and maybe you don't want to go to the military, you have what they call, you can go to traditional school. And for traditional school, there's 1,000 hours that you must complete. And it's kind of like real estate. You can still go to school, but then you still have to pass your state exam. Then you are a licensed barber. If you want to do the apprentice route, meaning instead of going to traditional school, you can go to a registered salon or barbershop, and you can get your hours through actual what they call hands-on experience. But you have to do the double the hours, so 2,000 for apprenticeship. If you're a cosmetologist, it's 1,600 at a traditional school, but then it's 3,200 at an apprenticeship. But at least during apprentice, you get paid while you're doing the apprentice part.
When you started, you weren't in any kind of formal training program. You just thought it would be fun and it was something you could do that would help your brothers feel good and yeah, help them out. Do you see that young guys, as often nowadays as in the past, are just kind of picking up the skill on their own and getting started like as a novice, and then maybe they would formalize their training and get licensed later on?
No, yeah. I mean, and that's, the advantage of this generation, right? You have YouTube, you can pick up a skill, you can pick up things a little bit easier, faster than kind of when I was younger. And that's kind of what I tell these guys, like, use your technology to your advantage and don't let it, use you. So if it's something you want to learn, literally, like, there's someone on there that will probably show you step by step.
So you've gone into and you still are going into youth rehabilitation centers or like youth prisons basically. And I wondered whether through that experience you learned anything interesting or were surprised by anything.
I remember, obviously being in the same similar situation as a lot of these kids, and we didn't have access to people who may have either went through the same or kind of made the same mistakes, so they can kind of show us, this is what you should do instead of doing this, or what you're doing now isn't the best option for you. You should try it this way. And a lot of the young youth that I notice is, the parents are either working so hard that they're not there or they're just not around. And so, you have to resort to whatever your environment is, and one, whether you're trying to just survive, I would say, or just two, you're just trying to fit in. And if you're with a group of friends that go skateboarding, you're going to skateboard. If you're with friends that go fishing, you're going to fish, and if you're with a group of kids who like to get in trouble, more than likely you're probably going to end up getting in trouble too. Just like to try to give back. And again, doing the service that I do, that's a way to connect with someone on more of like a one-on-one level. Because you're right within that 3 feet of space. And again, we don't know everything, but what we do know, or how we can help someone because we might have experienced something ourselves, or someone may have told us one of their experiences that we can try to help and pour into somebody else.
One of the benefits of getting your hair cut, it might be for some people one of the few occasions where someone touches them.
That's really ironic you said that, because it's true. I get so many people that's, again, they could be an adults, young 30s, early 40s, or whatever. I've never had a real haircut, is what we would say, going to the barbershop. Or maybe their parent didn't give them a hug, or something like that. So with today's society, we kind of give dap, or we give a handshake, and we kind of give like a light hug.
Oh
Well,
yeah.
again, you have people that say, I've never done that, or you can tell that they're a little uncomfortable. So again, you don't want to make someone uncomfortable, but we try to bring that to our industry, and at least I do, through my services, to let someone know, like, hey, like, I want your money, obviously, because I need to eat and I live, but my main thing is that you feel better as you're leaving than when you came in. Now, I have some people, sometimes they don't even get a haircut. They might come and we might just be watching the game, soccer game, basketball, football, whatever, right? Just to come in. That's actually kind of why I work some Sundays, especially during football season. It's because some guys just want to get out of the house. Don't get me wrong. I love my family. I love my kids. But sometimes you just, as men, we don't have sanctuaries. Ladies do. They go to the nail salon, they go to the spas, and they have all these retreats. But us as men, it's probably the barbershop, or which is the other one, which is the bar, right? And I would prefer the barbershop, but some people choose the bar. And I think, we need more spaces where, as men, we can feel comfortable, we can feel free, we can feel connected, and things like that. So that's what I try to bring to my barbershop and my business, and what I bring to the residents when I go into different institutions.
Where can people most likely find you if they wanted to come and get a haircut with you?
Well, good question. I'm kind of like the gingerbread man, to be honest. I'm all over. But I'm located in Auburn at 3310 Auburn Way North, and we've been there to be 4 years in August. Throughout the week, I'm typically at either any of the high schools or the Boys and Girls Club teaching, but typically Fridays and Saturdays, I'm at the shop.
So a shop in Auburn is the only
Uh,
physical location where you could
Physical
consistently be
location,
found.
yes, yes. It's called Detailed Experience, and then I have a app where someone can book, but it's like through a link.
So look into the future. Do you have some ambitions for the short or medium term of changes that you want to make?
And right now, as we speak, I'm in the process of actually getting a summer program over at the Echo Glen Institution. So, that's going to be great to do a pilot to kind of see how it's going to go. Then we can potentially have a program where they can have throughout the year and maybe hopefully at some point to get let's just say high school credit. I used to work at Evergreen where I got my instructor license from. They had a cosmetology program in there a couple years back, and few of the residents graduated, got their license, and they needed someone to kind of instruct them through like cutting hair, cutting the residents, and things like that. So that's kind of my job. I'm in there like instructing them as they're doing haircuts and things like that. And then, maybe down the road at some point, I would love to be able to have my own barber school and focus on these young kids who are transitioning, from being incarcerated, trying to get back into society.
You were playing basketball for Bellevue Community College?
Yeah, I played about a year and a half there.
Oh, okay. I
Yeah,
was the drummer for the jazz band at Bellevue Community College back before it became Bellevue College.
I was in there when they were still the Helmsmen. That's when we played. They wasn't even the Bulldogs yet.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's how I only played a little bit. I blew my knee out on that floor. It was kind of like that rubber floor, and I tore my ACL, LCL, MCL, and I popped my meniscus. So
Oh,
they pretty much
brutal.
redid the floor the following season, or about a year, yeah, about the following season after
Oh
that.
my goodness. I'm sorry.